What's up, Buck? Doug with D&E in the Garage. Now, on this channel, we have talked a lot about Jeep history as it pertains to military use, the civilian Jeep history, but there's another arena where Jeep played a huge part that we have yet to explore, and I think it's time we gave that history a little bit of attention. I'm talking, of course, about the United States Postal Service. Stick with me. This is going to be a video about mail delivery, but I promise it's not going to be boring. Prior to World War II, the USPS used several different modes of transportation, pretty much whatever was available to them at the time. This included horse-drawn buggies, any random arrangement of cars, trucks, early steam and electric vehicles, anything that they could get their hands on. There was no standardization. Now, as you can imagine, this caused a major nightmare for maintaining a fleet. There was no standardization of parts. You had to call a different mechanic depending on which vehicle broke down. It was completely unsustainable. After World War II, the USPS finally got enough budget that they could go out and attempt to standardize their fleets in some way. This led to the sit-or-stand trucks of the 1950s. As the name implies, these were trucks where you could either sit or stand while operating them. It made it very easy to get in and out while you were doing deliveries. These vehicles were fine in urban areas. They did great in the cities, but they were wildly underbuilt and underperforming for use in rural landscapes and the rapidly growing suburban sprawls of post-war America. This led to the USPS adoption in the 1950s of the Jeep to serve as their primary mail carrier. While in the beginning the USPS was using random versions of the Jeepster, the CJ2, and the CJ3, which they would adopt or retrofit for their purposes, Willys soon entered to the market a series of delivery-minded versions of their iconic CJ lines. These two-wheel drive Jeeps were given the DJ distinction and offered some unique features which the passenger CJs did not. The USPS was immediately impressed and began to provide Willys Overland with large government contracts to supply mail Jeeps. It should be noted here that the D in DJ stands for dispatcher. They were the dispatcher Jeeps. They weren't only for the USPS. The USPS was the largest purchaser of them, but anybody could buy one if they had need for a two-wheel drive vehicle. At this point in the video, I'm going to make a little note. As we've discussed in many other Jeep history videos, Jeep has been owned by Willys, Overland, Kaiser Jeep, AMC. For the remainder of this video, I'm not going to bother with the parent company. I'm just going to say Jeep. It's going to make everything a lot easier on me. Beginning in 1955, Jeep offered a DJ3A based on the CJ3A model, identical in every way with the notable exception of being two-wheel drive, having an option for a completely enclosed cab with a sliding door to improve ease of entry and exit, and also with the ability to be purchased as a right-hand drive vehicle in the United States. This Jeep was not only used by the Postal Service, but was also popular in resort communities in the Caribbean, Mexico, and Hawaii as a golf cart or low-cost rental car for guests. In the late 50s and 60s, the DJ3A was offered in Gala and Surrey trim levels, which included outlandish color schemes with fringed patterned soft tops to blend into the tropical resort scenery where they had become popular. In 1965, Jeep continued the DJ line with the DJ5 and DJ6 based on the similarly named CJs, with the CJ and DJ6 having a 20-inch longer wheelbase than its DJ and CJ5 brother. These models continued the availability of a fully enclosed cab with a sliding door and a right-hand drive option, which had become essential for suburban and rural mailbox letter delivery. In 1967, Jeep released a line of DJ5s which more specifically represented the specifications and needs of the United States Postal Service, designated the DJ5A through M. These utilized the Chevy 2.5-liter straight 4 with slight variations between letter designation. In 1971, Jeep changed the front clip of the DJ5A to better suit its mail carrier job by decreasing the grille size, resulting in a 5-slat grille instead of a 7-slat grille. If you guys remember, Eric and I actually found one of these in the junkyard about a year ago, and we had to ask you guys, what is this? Why does this thing have 5 slats instead of 7? And it came out it was a DJ5A dispatcher mail Jeep. In addition to making the grille smaller, Jeep also removed the blinkers, which resulted in an overall sleeker front end. Additionally, the leaf spring mounting points were moved to outside the frame to provide more stability for the notoriously top-heavy mail Jeeps. The hood was lengthened to make room for the AMC straight 6, and a limited slip as well as heavy-duty steering box option became available where terrain dictated necessity of such features. It's important to note that in 1971, the then AMC-owned Jeep brand was forced to spin off DJ production to the AM General branch of AMC. This was due to the AMC merger with French automaker Renault and a policy which dictated that no foreign manufacturers could hold government contracts. AM General would continue making the line of DJ Jeeps for the United States Postal Service until they ended production in 1984. A notable addition to the DJ line, and one that we've actually talked about before, is the DJ5E, better known as the Electruck. This is a fully electric version of the DJ5. It was mass-produced in 1974. It was powered by two 27-volt lead-acid batteries with a 54-volt compound-wound DC motor, courtesy of Gould Electronics, which made a whopping 30 brake horsepower. It topped out at 33 miles an hour and had a range of 29 miles, which I assume by 1974 standards wasn't all that bad. The United States Postal Service actually ordered 352 of these for their use in cities with big smog problems, and a lot of them remained in service for a long time. After production of the DJ line ended in 1984, the USPS still utilized Jeeps in the form of right-hand drive Jeep Cherokee XJs and later right-hand drive Wrangler Unlimiteds. These were employed in areas where the now aging fleet of DJs were no longer suitable to deliver the mail. So to my knowledge, there are not too many manufacturers that are allowed to sell right-hand drive vehicles in the United States. And of course, you're not just anybody can purchase one, but if you are a mail carrier in a remote area, you can get your hands on a right-hand drive Wrangler today and use that as your mail delivery vehicle if your route dictates the use of such a vehicle. Now, this may be the end of the line for Jeep as a mail-carrying vehicle, at least as the main mail-carrying vehicle, but it's not obviously the end of mail delivery. In 1984, when the USPS realized the DJ line was going to be discontinued, they made a decision. No longer were they going to just purchase off-the-shelf vehicles and hope for the best or try to find some that work. They were going to send out a set of specifications that clearly laid out what they needed in a vehicle, and they were going to contract a domestic automaker to build them a purpose-built mail-carrying vehicle. In 1984, they sent out this list of requirements to a number of U.S. automakers to see what they could bring back for them. Among other things, the vehicle had to be made of a watertight aluminum body. It had to be comfortable to get in and out of as well as operate for anyone from 5'4" up to 6'2", and it had to be capable of running 7 days a week, 20 hours a day for 20 years. That was the longevity requirement for the vehicle as the USPS laid it down in 1984. Think about that for a minute. 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 20 years. Now, obviously, these vehicles weren't actually going to be run 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, but they wanted to make sure that they could be. That's how reliable and well-built they needed to be. At the end of the day, 3 automakers came back with prototypes, concepts that the United States Postal Service was interested in testing. The first was a company called Poveco. The second was AM General, who had been making the previous DJ line. And the third was a joint venture by the aircraft company Grumman and General Motors Corporation. These 3 vehicles were then taken to a proving ground in Texas, where they were all put through a punishing test of their durability and capability. This test included drive 5,760 miles on a closed loop, 5-mile-long paved road at 50 to 55 miles per hour, drive 11,520 miles over a gravel road at 30 to 45 miles per hour, drive 2,880 miles over a road with a shoulder, stopping every 250 feet and accelerating to 15 miles an hour between, drive 960 miles over cobblestones that raised from 3 to 4 inches high at 10 to 14 miles an hour, drive 960 miles over potholes at 10 to 14 miles an hour, haul a 1-ton load during 1/2 of the road test, haul a man and 400 pounds of cargo during 1/2 of the road test, drive over potholes ensuring that each wheel hits potholes 35,000 times, make 100 consecutive stops from 15 miles per hour. When the dust cleared, only 1 vehicle was found to be up to the task. That was the joint venture vehicle by Grumman and GM, dubbed the LLV, or the Long Life vehicle. This vehicle was built on the GM platform from the 1982 S10 with extreme similarities in the front suspension and gauge cluster. It was originally powered by the 2.5-liter i4 throttle body injected Iron Duke producing 98 horsepower, and later powered by the GM 2.2 i4 with an aluminum head and an iron block. Behind the engine is this 3-speed turbo hydromatic 180 auto trans going to an open rear-wheel drive differential. This driveline topped out at a max of 10 miles per gallon. An interesting point about this chassis is that the front wheels are actually closer together than the rear wheels. This was done to improve the turning radius. The body of these things are where it gets really interesting. The body is designed and built by Grumman, which is an aircraft manufacturer. They also made canoes after World War II. It's kind of an interesting story. They had such a surplus of aircraft-grade aluminum after World War II. They said, what are we going to do with this? We don't have to build, Wildcats anymore. So they turned to building canoes. And if you can get your hands on a 40s, 50s, 60s Grumman canoe, what you have there is a literally bulletproof canoe. Those things are amazing. I digress though. If you look at the LLV, the body of it, you can tell it's put together by an airplane manufacturer. Everything is riveted together. It's very bare bones. There's no insulation inside. It's just a very boxy utilitarian design. It's got no clock, no radio, no air conditioning, just steering controls on the right-hand drive, a letter carrying tray where the passenger seat should go on the left-hand side, and a large cargo area in the back. They are 6 foot 3 inches wide, 7 foot 1 inches tall, and 14 7 inches long. They weigh 3,000 pounds and are designed to carry up to 1,000 pounds. When these were released, they were released to great acclaim. They were finally going to homogenize the entire fleet. They were modern at the time, and people were very excited about them. Now, they were originally designed to have a 20-year lifespan. Then that was bumped up to 24 years, and finally extended in 2009 to 30 years. The first one rolled off the line in 1987. So the first ones are already 31 years old as this video is being made. So they are already 11 years past their original lifespan. And I mention this because the LLV gets a horrible name today. They are considered to be wildly unreliable. They have some pretty major issues. No safety equipment included that you would find on modern vehicles. And they are generally regarded as a plague on the USPS. And I think that that's unfair because they did their job. They served loyally for 20 years, and then we said, screw it, make them serve another 10 years. If you judge something on its ability to perform 10 years past what it was designed to do, of course it's going to fail. Let's discuss some of these more glaring issues. The number one issue is that these vehicles are prone to fires. This is due to the placement of the window washer reservoir right above the fuse panel. The washer reservoir develops leaks over time that leaks down onto the fuse panel, and it creates fires. These things are typically filled with paper and cardboard, so when they go up quick. In addition to that, there are two major design flaws that were just wrong from day one. They're not high enough off the ground to handle any kind of snow. So as soon as there is snow accumulation on the ground, they have major issues. Being an open differential rear-wheel drive setup, the best you can do in the snow is put on some snow chains and pray, but these things are notorious for getting stuck in the snow. That's from day one. Additionally, the cargo area having no windows presents two major issues. One is ventilation. These things get warm in the summer without their AC, and there's no good way to ventilate them. And two, it creates gigantic blind spots. These things are notorious for darting out in front of cars because they just didn't see them. They have to rely on a series of 7 mirrors around the vehicle to try to see what you would normally be able to see with a window out of the back. In addition to that, the heaters are underpowered and prone to breaking. So in the summer you have no AC, and in the winter you likely have no heat. Another major issue that is developed over time is that these were designed to carry letters. When they were designed in 1985, letters were the most common thing being transported through the mail. Thanks to Amazon, that's not the case anymore. And more frequently, these things are getting filled up with boxes, which is just not what they were designed for. They're not big enough. They're not rated for it. They don't have the ergonomics for a mail carrier to be moving boxes around. It's just not what they're for. It's time for them to be replaced. And a replacement is in the works. As we have it, there are 50 different concepts from 5 different companies being reviewed right now by the USPS. They were supposed to have a decision by 2018. Now they're discussing maybe late 2019, though it looks like more delays are going to exist and possibly extend that timeline. To my knowledge, there are currently 5 companies with 5 frontrunners that are seriously being considered to replace the LLV. Number 1 is from AM General. This is going to be an internal combustion engine with a stop-start in it to increase fuel economy, though they are also kicking around an AM General design with an electric stop. After that is a Carson Automotive. This is a Turkish company. This would be a fully electric mail carrying vehicle. The third is Oshkosh in a joint venture with Ford. Oshkosh, of course, is a defense contractor from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. They are working on a modified Ford Transit van. Some of these are actually in use right now, known as the FFV, the flexible fuel vehicles. Ford modified a transit van, and some mail carriers are driving modified transit vans as their mail carrier right now. It's got a 3-liter V6 that will work on ethanol fuel, so they are more efficient than the LLVs. They're also larger and have modern safety amenities. After that, Mahindra, which is an Indian company, is looking to produce a fully electric mail-carrying Jeep. An interesting thing about Mahindra is that they built CJs in India under contract from Willis Overland after World War I, so they actually have kind of an interesting connection to the whole mail Jeep thing. The third company is a joint venture between the American company Workhorse and the Singapore company VT Hackney. They are working on a battery electric version of a mail Jeep. All 5 of these are currently being tested and tweaked and dialed in to figure out which one is going to be the mail Jeep for foreseeably the next 30 years. Anything that the USPS invests in, they're going to want it to have a long lifetime. They're not going to design something that will be obsolete or wearing out in 10 to 15 years. They're going to want something that goes another 30 years. So we will all be interested to see what becomes of this. Obviously, I am sad to see Jeep not be involved, though if AM General gets their way, Jeep's kind of involved because Jeep has a connection to AM General. I've always found the LLV interesting because of what it was asked to do. It's so bare bones and it needs to perform in all sorts of environments. And I know this is a video and a channel dedicated to Jeep, but the LLV really is a cool video, and the LLV is what prompted me to make this video, but I couldn't make a video about mail carrying without adding in the Jeep history. The interesting thing, though, is as much as I love the LLV, I don't think I'd ever buy one. Like, what are you going to do with it? You can get a hold of an LLV today. They're not that expensive, though they are all pretty much used up. There's really nothing you can do with it, so sadly they will probably all end up at the scrapyard. Some good money in that aluminum there, and then they will just become a memory. But I think we should all tip our hat to the humble little LLV for performing 20 or 10 years past what it was designed to do and doing it faithfully and loyally. All right, now I would love to know from you guys which mail vehicle from the past you'd like to see brought back and used today. Personally, there's a Kaiser Jeep one there that just looks beefy as a mail vehicle. Also, obviously, I've always found the elect truck pretty amusing. I know that's the one Eric would choose, but you guys let me know which one you would choose. What do you want to see roll up to your house every day to deliver your mail? All right, if you got any questions on this video, by all means, leave me the comment down there in a squawk box. I love hearing what you guys think about the stuff that we research and present. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.